I mean, if you want to experience some level of financial freedom or success or business, I mean, it is absolutely possible. It's not possible overnight, but if you keep doing the things and making it happen and figuring it out, that it's inevitable over time. You know, all you see on social media when it comes to success, supercars and private jets.
What is success? And so many times it's do the grind and do the hustle, but at what point am I sacrificing something in my life?
To try to please God, we're so afraid about doing the wrong thing that we do nothing.
Business to me is like playing a game. You play it with your friends. If you're good at it, you learn how to play the game better, and it's more fun if you play it better.
Well, I can tell you this, success achieved without humility is going to be short-lived.
I had something that I felt like I could be passionate about for a lifetime, not just as long as I could physically demonstrate the work. And that changed everything for me.
Welcome, everybody, to the first episode of the Pay It Forward podcast. My name is Austin Seward. I am one of your hosts, and we also have
the Keegan Walls. Super excited to finally be starting this podcast and sharing it with you. So we just want to start out by kind of mentioning why we wanted to get into the whole podcast business anyways, and why we started ours specifically. So
for sure. Yeah, this is it's been a long time coming of getting this podcast together, and this is our first episode. So we'll be working out all the kinks. I'm sure this will be our worst episode that we ever record, but it should only go up from here. We have a lot of cool guests planned, but I mean, the vision behind this podcast is, all you see on social media when it comes to success and business owners is supercars and private jets and work harder and hustle more and acquire more things. And I mean, it's very materialistic success is what you see on podcasts, on TikTok, on Reels, because that's what sells, right? That's what's sexy. That's what people look to. But I personally don't know of anything of a podcast or people that are putting out content of really sharing stories of well-rounded entrepreneurs and business people who have a very different definition of success and the life that they live. And I've been really fortunate to be surrounded by a lot of those people as a young kid. And I mean, throughout all of my years up until now. And a lot of those people have been a true inspiration to making me into who I am today and really what I'm striving to build as an entrepreneur. So hopefully that's the platform that we're able to build with this. And hopefully we bring in a lot of really good guests that can exemplify that different definition of what success really is. So why don't you share a little bit?
Yeah, no. So for me being in real estate, so for me, it's more like the story. So obviously we want to share why, what success means to different people. And I mean, I think even just being in the business, real estate agents are entrepreneurs or business owners in their own right. And so identifying that success truly goes beyond like dollars and cents, like you said. But for me, it's hearing people's stories, right? So it's people being motivated, other people that are, maybe not sure about what their passion is, where they want to go in life. And really inviting guests on who can share and show wisdom of here's where I started, here's where I got, here's how I got there, and sharing those insider secrets and business tips. But I think that people are kind of moved and motivated and encouraged by people's stories and hearing backgrounds. I mean, we have a lot of amazing business people in our area. And a lot of them, I don't really know their background. I mean, some of the people that I even know that are incredible business people that are possibly tuning in and listening to the show have no idea of how they got started or all the obstacles that they've overcome and really all that their business entails, that it goes beyond just kind of what I think like the normal people think, oh, this person just does so-and-so. And I would say the majority of them, for them, their true success is not just found within their business. It's what they provide outside. And to be able to have some of the guests come on that have been super influential to me in my life, I think sharing stories and sharing, who people really are, that's kind of like my passion. Hearing the heart, hearing the why behind people. And so, yeah, super excited to share that as well. So, so obviously us as your guests and your hosts of this podcast, people might not know you outside of the Austin Sewart billboard and the Sewart group. So why don't you share with everybody, what makes you you? What makes up Austin?
For sure. Yeah, I think it's important to make sure our listeners know about us and hear our stories. And I definitely don't want to portray myself as all knowing in the aspect of business and entrepreneurship. And man, I was reading my Bible this morning, and actually, I'm going to pull it up if that's all right. I took a picture of this verse that really stuck out to me this morning. And knowing that we were going to be doing this podcast today, and it's on Proverbs 18, and it says, "Fools find no pleasure in understanding, but delight in airing their own opinions." And I think a lot of people like to share their opinions, right, on social media, on podcasts, and what have you. And I mean, we'll do some of that. But I really want to delight in understanding and listening to the opinions of others and the stories of others and the wisdom of others. So whatever I share, I hope it doesn't come from a place of knowing or this is the way you have to do it. I will share everything I know and have learned and the experience that I've had, and hopefully that inspires and influences other people to take action on things as well. But a little bit about myself, kind of, I would say my business story started as a really young kid. I was very blessed to be surrounded by a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs in our family circle. And I don't know what it is, but I was always inspired by building a business and leading people and creating something from nothing. And always loved hard work. As a kid, when my friends were playing on the swing set and riding bikes, I was digging holes and screwing 2x4s together to try to build something. I really enjoyed working. There's pictures of me as a young kid mowing the lawn where I was underneath the handlebars with a push mower mowing the lawn. I don't know what it is, but I just really enjoyed the virtue of hard work. And as I went into my middle school, high school years, I decided to take some of these business owners that I knew out to lunch and hear their stories. And hey, how did you get to where you are today? And it was through a lot of those conversations that really inspired me to take action and build my own business. So in high school, I started a landscaping company called Sewart Property Services. And that landscaping company started before I had a driver's license. And my mom and dad would drop me off with my dad's riding lawnmower. And I had a couple lawn mowing accounts. And then they asked me to do some weed pulling and put some mulch down. And that kind of turned into more maintenance and more lawn accounts. And I mean, when I got my driver's license, I bought a pickup truck, immediately bought a trailer and lawnmower, and had a couple guys helping with me, and ran that landscaping business for 4 years, and ended up actually selling that business my sophomore year in college to a friend of mine who was just starting a landscaping business and is doing incredible at it right now. So that was a really good move for both of us. But kind of in the meantime, was doing the landscaping business, went to college up here in La Crosse at UWL, University of Wisconsin La Crosse, have a degree in finance. And during my time at UWL, had an opportunity to work for a local landlord in the area. That's a really good friend of mine, and was college roommates with my dad. So kind of got exposed to the real estate game and landlording. And knew I wanted to invest in rental properties. So started diving into Bigger Pockets and was a big Dave Ramsey fan. Still am. Still agree with a lot of the stuff that he says. Other stuff I don't agree with. But Dave would have these segments where Millionaire Minute or whatever. He'd say, hey, if you're a millionaire, call into the show. I want to hear your story. Where do you have your money? How did you achieve the millionaire status? And man, there was people from all different backgrounds that called into the show. There was teachers, there was engineers, there were doctors, there were lawyers, literally a huge spectrum of people and earning capacities anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000 a year to millions of dollars a year. But there was one commonality amongst all of these people who called in, and almost every single one owned real estate outside of their personal house. Some owned a rental or two, some owned a huge portfolio of rentals, but pretty much every single one owned real estate. So I knew from that moment that I wanted to invest in real estate. And throughout my college years, I was pretty much working full time all throughout college, whether that was operating my landscaping business the first 2 years. Then I went into cold call sales, selling software to contractors for my uncle's company, did that for about a year. Worked in ministry my last year in college. So was always kind of working full time in that while I was going to school. But when I was working, doing cold calling, that was a W-2 position, right? So I could go to the bank, and the banks love W-2 income. And real estate prices back then, you could get a duplex for 100 to 150,000 pretty easily in La Crosse. It was not as hot of a market as it is right now. So I was able to get approved for a loan. I think I was making $35,000, $40,000 my base salary, and was able to get approved for an FHA loan. And within a week or so, ended up purchasing my first duplex. And that's kind of where the real estate investing journey started. So bought that owner-occupied duplex, lived in the top, rented out the bottom, and my overhead was basically zero. I knew that if I could live off of rice and beans, beans and rice if I needed to, which allowed me to be really aggressive in business, in growing business, in investing in real estate, that I didn't have a family to support. I didn't have a big mortgage payment or rent payment or car payment. I had no payments. I lived in a duplex that 95% of my mortgage was covered by my lower tenants. And that really set me up to be able to be aggressive in business decisions. So upon graduating from college, was a weird time in my life. And like I said, I was working in ministry. I actually worked for Kicking Bear Ministry as the director of operations. And if you guys aren't familiar with Kicking Bear, I'd encourage you to look it up. It's an awesome organization that I'm super passionate about. Ray Howell, who's the founder, will be one of our guests here in the next few weeks. So excited for that. But I really felt at that time in my life that God was calling me out of ministry and back into business. And that's a really weird feeling. And I struggled for a while. Is like, is God truly calling me back into business, or is that just kind of my selfish desire for money and greed to make more money and to get into business and ego? And I truly believe, looking back on it now, that God was calling me back into business, and he planted those desires of entrepreneurship and business in me at a very young age. And I realized after getting into real estate, after ministry, got my real estate license, started selling real estate, built a real estate team. And it was about 6 months to a year after that I realized that you don't have to be in ministry to minister to people, and your ministry is whatever you're doing. And in real estate, you get the opportunity to help people through a massive transaction and transition in their lives, and get to meet and talk and build relationships one-on-one with those people. So my ministry is business, whatever that is, whether that's selling real estate or selling popcorn or whatever. That's my ministry, and I truly feel that's why I'm here. So yeah, I mean, fast forward, since getting into real estate, it's been a complete whirlwind. Have the Seawork Group. We have a team of real estate agents here in La Crosse, also in the Milwaukee area. Have just over 100 rental units between the La Crosse area and the Milwaukee area. that have all been purchased within the past 4 years. Launching a bookkeeping company right now with my fiance Becca for real estate investors, teams, and agents. And now we're launching this. So got a lot of stuff going on, but
Who's your favorite agent on the team? It goes
can't
without,
answer. No comment.
it goes without saying.
So that's a little bit of background about me. I'm sure in the coming episodes, you guys will learn more and we'll kind of peel back the onion a little bit more. But yeah, why don't you, Keegan, share a little bit about your background?
Yeah, we can't give away everything on the first
Right.
episode. Then there's nothing left. So, but yeah, I mean, I think what's so funny is your story and then my story, I would say, in terms of our characteristics or how people would describe us. I would say we were kind of opposite. So you were the kid that was working hard and doing whatever. I was probably the kid dressed up in like a Tigger costume, pushing the wagon down a hill and then messing with kids. Like, yeah, I mean, that's partly a true story. So I for sure was not the kid pushing a lawnmower. I was the kid saying, how can I go have more fun? So, but so for me, I think getting into real estate is just weird. I never really necessarily thought I would be in real estate. And so, was not a hard worker, in high school. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother thing. But as soon as I was an adult, found the Lord. And so my first real job was ministry. So at First Free, and was in charge of the children's ministry. Really thought my life calling was to be a full-time minister, be in ministry full-time. Really thought that's what it was. Still to this day, a little confused, but the Lord, I think, clearly guided me and directed me out of it as well. And in the midst of that, met my fiance, who is now my wife, and now also the mother to our child, Atticus, shout out. But from that time until this time, I've done a number of different things. I mean, I've worked at Culver's. I worked at Cartridge World. Didn't find out I did not find out when I was at Cartridge World that I was actually getting co-manager pay until after I quit. So that's just a whole awesome story. Worked there until about 6 months before that ship was going to go down, and said, I am not going down on the Titanic. So I said, I'm out, left there, and then was working, which another shout out to another guest that we're going to have. Actually have taught dance. So that's another one of my secrets. I enjoy dance, like dance. It is the verdict is still a little bit undecided on if I actually know how to dance, because I won't show anybody, but know enough about dance to where I did that. So that was a really awesome thing for me, because I was able to take my passion for the youth and kids and use dance as my ministry to be able to help young kids and to, right now, the youth, middle school, high school, it's a super tough time for anybody.
Sure.
So then to be able to have this outlet of dance, and specifically hip hop. So I ran the hip hop program over there at Misty's. That was awesome. Did that. And that was my most recent job. So I was doing that full time. My wife was a full-time nurse at Gunderson, but then that came with, we were ready to start a family, and her ultimate dream was to be a stay-at-home mom. So we knew there had to be a change. So that change was, I needed to find a different career path so that she could fulfill her dream of being a stay-at-home mom. And if you can't tell, I really like talking, really enjoy people. I like the spontaneity of, I can't sit behind a desk and just do the same thing every single day. I will hit my head against a wall. I'm going to get bored. I'm like the dog that saw a squirrel and ran off. So I need something. I need some type of flexibility. So I need every single day to look different. And knew people that were in real estate, and decided, you know what, I think that would actually be a good fit for me. I really enjoy meeting new people. Real estate, like you said, big transaction. So to actually be able to meet people where they are and help them, it still fulfilled that as well. And then also just, I thought was a good fit with my personality and just the things that make my heart come alive. So decided to get into real estate, and then eventually sat down with you. I think we were at Hacienda, found out more about you, thought our visions aligned, and said, you know what? You are that business guy that has that entrepreneurship thing. I am not. I am tell me where I need to go, and I'm going to run 100 miles an hour at it. and thought we were a good fit, and I thought our visions aligned, and then obviously joined your team, and have just been like an absolute overnight sensation ever since. So no, but yeah, so then did that, and yeah, I've loved being in real estate. My wife, whenever people ask me, well, how's real estate going? I say, well, my wife's still at home, so it's going good enough. And so it has. It's provided our family with a level of like comfort, but the level of comfort for my wife to be able to fulfill her dream of being a stay-at-home mom. So it's been awesome, and that's kind of where it's brought me. I've been getting into rentals as well. Have a few, not as many as Austin.
Someday.
Maybe someday. If you teach me how to get there. Over the course of the podcast, all of a sudden you guys will all grow with us, and we'll all have jumbo real estate portfolios.
Right. Exactly.
So, but yeah, so that's just a little bit about my
Good.
business background, at least. But so
For sure.
Well, let's go into a new segment. Not sponsored by anybody. And so you've given your business background, but I'm sure like this whole first episode is just laying out, who we are, like what makes us tick, really why we started this podcast. You've already explained it. The whole goal is like we're bringing on these people, and hopefully the people that are tuning in and listening, they know we are doing these things because we're also eager to learn. Like we are in the journey with them.
For sure.
And so, but I also think it's fun just to get to know like who are these people asking questions and be on the business side. So, with you, like how did you explained it a little bit, but like when did you make the decision that, hey, I'm going to, I was in real estate, but I want my own team. Like when did that moment happen?
That moment kind of happened organically. Was selling real estate for, I think, about 6 months on my own, and saw success pretty quickly in the first 6 months selling houses, and actually was reached out by a good friend of mine, Kyle Cable, and he had a podcast at the time. He was still in college, and he's like, hey, I want you to be on my podcast. So sat down with him at UWL, and that was the first podcast I was ever a part of, and that was kind of when podcasts were like just starting. So did that and meshed really well with Kyle, and Kyle actually interned with me his last semester in college, brand new real estate agent, and he was interning with me, and he got 3-4 credits at UWL to go towards his degree. And it was more of just building a friendship and him seeing what real estate was all about and learning from somebody who's still learning. But it was a lot of fun, and that just kind of happened organically. He did that internship for a semester, and so about 6 months or so. So I'm about a year in of being licensed, and there's different teams in the area, and there's not really any large. Is now, but at the time there was like 2, 3, 4 person real estate teams. We're in La Crosse, Wisconsin. There's in the greater La Crosse area, maybe 150,000 people. So relatively small market, around 400 or 500 real estate agents, probably only 100 or so full-time. So a lot of smaller teams in the area, but just kind of thought that was the natural progression, right? Was to start a real estate team. So one day Kyle came over to my duplex that I was living in, and I was like, hey, have you ever thought about getting your real estate license? He said, dude, I was actually going to talk with you about that today. I do want to get my license. I'm like, cool, great. Worked for a local indie brokerage at the time. And I was like, well, would you ever want to join a team, or should we start a team? He said, yeah, I want to work with you however we can. We'll figure it out. And we did. So the Austin Seward team was formed at that time with just Kyle and I, and I had no idea how a real estate team was supposed to be structured, or what it would include, or building out your core values and all that stuff. I had no clue, and every other team in the area was first name, last name, team, first name, last name, team. So the idea of creating another name, or I was literally just copying what other successful teams were doing in the area. And so we did that for a period of about 6 months to a year, and then hired an admin to help with doing some administrative work and transaction coordination and listing coordination and marketing and stuff like that. And yeah, we just kind of kept growing and growing and adding more agents. And in that period of time, transitioned from that independent brokerage that we were with. Actually, they brought the entire brokerage over to eXp Realty. And then we ended up separating from them about a little over a year ago now to establish our own team within eXp. And yeah, that's where we're at now.
Yep. I joined right on the tail end, so technically I was still part of the Austin
You
Seward
were.
team, then
You
the
were.
Seward group. So
Yep.
yeah, so funny story is, so before I reached out to you, so again, 6 months of super good, easy success.
Yep.
I'm the opposite. By myself, floating in the ocean like Castaway, right? My wife is Wilson, and I'm just like, I don't know. There are no prospects out here. I'm just alone
Right.
on this island. And I was like, I want to join a team. But my first impression was, because I live in Holman, so I always had the big billboard of Kyle Cable and Austin Seward. I'd drive by it every single day. And I even went to, because I was a part of One Trust, and went to like the Loggers game. You guys were there. I always saw you guys as like, I don't know, like this like hot shot young boy duo. And I'm like, if they ever met me, they would not. I have zero chance. I'm not cool. I'm not cool enough. They wouldn't let me into the frat. But then I actually met you, and I was like, holy cow. Wow,
You're like
just because you made a nice billboard doesn't mean you're mean.
what's his name from Napoleon? I'm not cool enough.
Exactly.
Pedro.
Exactly. So that's how I felt. But obviously we've come a long way. So for people, because I would say the same thing that we've been talking about, right? You're one way, I'm a different way. You now having multiple successful ventures, and in a lot of which I get you have some level of like guidance, but a lot of it like figuring it out on your own. And you said like you've had that gift from God, like that entrepreneurship, that business. Like if people are wanting to kind of like start a business or be an entrepreneur, from your side of things, do you think people are naturally born with that kind of like leadership skill? Do you think it's something that can be like developed, or do you think it is, yeah, it has to be developed, but primarily it's like you kind of do have that gifting or not? Like, what's your take on that?
I think that there is not a resource problem. There is unlimited resources available for people to be successful in business right now. I think there's a resourcefulness problem, and there's a lack of action problem. And not problem. I mean, I just think some people innately are wired to take action, to have that innate desire to succeed, that internal motivation. And I think there's a portion of it that I think God wires you a certain way. I think for sure, but there's absolutely no excuse for someone who has a desire to start a business right now, or to sell real estate, or to anything in the entrepreneurial realm. YouTube, Google. I mean, there are unlimited other podcasts that are unbelievable.
Pay It Forward
Pay It
podcast.
Forward. Hit the subscribe button. But man, there's so many resources out there. And at the end of the day, it just comes down to taking action on those different things. And are you going to take action perfectly? Absolutely not. But as long as you're taking action and you're falling forward and you're learning from your mistakes, and constantly moving forward and learning and taking action, success isn't inevitable. It really is. So I think, like when I was a kid, anything that broke on my truck, I fixed it. And my dad, sorry dad, but doesn't know which end of the hammer to swing. Not handy at all. And my grandpa, my uncle, those guys have played a huge role in my life, and are a lot where I learned some handy skills from. But really, a lot of that was just learned. And when something broke on my truck, you search YouTube. How do you fix your brakes? Or how do you fix your alternator? Or how do you change a belt? Or how do you do this or do that? And if you just follow the step-by-step directions, you can figure it out. And over time, you learn different intricacies and like, well, I should have done it this way, or I should have had that tool, or different tips and tricks and stuff that people learn from doing. But you just got to do and find somebody who you want to be like and copy and paste and emulate what they're doing. And if you're able to get any mentorship or pick that person's brain or sit down with them and talk and like hear their stories. And hopefully that's what this podcast does for a lot of people, because man, there's a lot of people that we have on the schedule right now that I think there's a lot of people in this community and honestly anywhere that would never have the opportunity to sit down one-on-one and hear that person's story and hear the wisdom that they have to share. So I think it's going to be pretty cool for others to kind of be able to see behind the curtain of some of these people that you see their name on the buildings and the billboards, and to really hear their true heart and the wisdom that they have to share. So
For sure. Yeah, and I mean that's something that you've shared, and I think that's a common problem with people in real estate or in any business, is that paralysis by analysis. Because like you said, there's tons of stuff out there. The problem is sometimes there's so much
too
stuff.
much. Yep.
Oh my gosh, I have 1,000 different choices on what food to get. I mean, Netflix itself, right? Like,
Yep.
how many nights me and my wife are like, let's watch a show.
There's nothing to watch.
Nothing to watch. I'm like, there's nothing to watch. There's Hulu, there's Amazon Prime,
sure.
there's HBO, there's Netflix, there's
You open up the
YouTube
fridge
TV.
and there's nothing to eat.
And
But
so instead of
Yeah.
seeing like, you know what, like eventually I think an easy advice would be at some point, like you said, find somebody that you like, that you're going to emulate, that maybe kind of has like the same like core values as you.
Yep.
And you just got to act. I
Yep.
mean, that's what it was. I mean, I think I had talked to you a couple times. You recommended Robert Kiyosaki's book, whatever the name of it is.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You got to know that one.
I know. I have it. I have it on my office desk, but blanking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I got like 2 or 3 chapters in, and I said, you know what? My whole life is I'm a paralysis guy.
Yeah.
Until I know it, I'm not going to do it. And I was
Yeah.
like, you know what? Let's just figure this thing out. They say I
Yep.
can do it this way. Let's just try it. You
Yep.
know what? I tried it. So far, it's working out. Okay.
It's working out.
So
Yep.
yeah, I was like, you know what? I'm going to jump in,
Yep.
take the next big step. So that's what I've done.
That's why we have make it happen mentality. That's why it's up on the wall as one of our core values. And that's one thing my dad has always told me as a kid: make it happen, figure it out, make it happen.
Yeah.
And that's the honest to goodness truth in anything that you go after. Make it happen, figure it out. If there's a will, there's a way. And honestly, that's the truth. I mean, aside from going viral and becoming a celebrity and like stuff like that, but I mean, if you want to experience some level of financial freedom or success or business, I mean, it is absolutely possible. It's not possible overnight, but if you keep doing the things and making it happen and figuring out that it's inevitable over time.
Yeah. And so what would you tell somebody who is maybe on the fence, or maybe kind of like in that, like, I don't know what to believe, I don't know where to go, like somebody either starting a business or thinking about getting in real estate? Like, what is like the one thing or the first step you would tell them?
First step is just deciding what you want to do, right? And there's not one answer for this, because everybody's in different positions and phases of life and has different obligations and different goals behind why they're doing what they're doing. But I mean, maybe that's it. I would really start with, why are you doing what you want to do? And Simon Sinek, Start with Why. That's a great book. And honestly, that is the starting place for deciding what you want to do. And but at the end of the day, it's putting yourself in a position to be able to act on that. And like I said, living in that owner-occupied duplex gave me the ability to do whatever I want. And know that I was still going to have a place to live. I was still going to have food. I had a truck that was paid for, like no debt. And when you're in a position like that, and I would encourage any young listeners listening, if you are just starting out your career and you don't have kids yet and you're not married, the best thing you can do is buy an owner-occupied duplex or house hack or 1 to 4 unit, and that just gives you so many options. So that I think starting with your motivation of why are you doing it? Is it for material success and money, or what is the deeper reason behind why you're doing what you're doing? So
Yeah, awesome. And so now, changing it up a little bit, you had mentioned that you're engaged. And so I'm
am.
sure absolutely anybody that knows you and knows Becca wants to know, how did you find her? How did you make it, how did you make it happen?
it's about the most romantic love story that you could ever
what I
draw
hear.
up. It was a beautiful sunset overlooking the Mississippi River, and just happened to glance. No, we met on Tinder.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, we met on Tinder, and actually, Becca and her roommates were playing TV Tinder. If anybody's ever played that, of all of her roommates drinking wine, swiping, putting Tinder on the TV.
Never heard of it.
And we matched and started talking, and little did I know that all of her roommates were having the initial conversation with her, and but we started talking, asked her out on a date, and a year later we got engaged.
Then you
So-
you closed.
Closed.
There it is. Wedding coming up.
Wedding coming up in I think 50 days today. So yeah, what a blessing. So excited for that. Yeah, really excited. So
That'll be awesome.
absolutely.
Can't wait to tear up the dance floor with those.
Maybe we'll
moves.
see some dance moves and
Hey,
bring the camera to.
I'll need to warm up. I'll take a week or two and warm up and do a little stretching though. It's been a while, so
Perfect.
no, that's awesome. And so maybe like one more thing would just be outside of business, like Austin the person. Like, okay, take away the business. You pack up your stuff. You go home for the day. Like, what are your passions? What are your like? What do you do for fun? Like, what do you really enjoy?
Well, I did it this morning. I got a turkey with my bow this morning, the 5th one of the season.
Boom.
So I absolutely love the outdoors. Anything outside, hunting, fishing, hiking. I love being outside. Bow hunting is a huge passion of mine. Have dreams of traveling the world and hunting big game animals with my bow. Love fishing, being out on the river. Enjoy playing golf. Yeah, really anything outside. Hunting, fishing, enjoy.
That's awesome.
So
Well, very cool.
yeah,
Let's take this time to kind of switch it up and shine the light on the star of the show.
let's switch it up. I think let's talk a little bit about more about the why behind this podcast, and like in success and what success means to you. And everybody's got a different definition, right? And I don't know that there's one definition that's right or wrong, but like if I ask what a successful life looks like to you, what does that look like for Keegan Walls?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a big question. I mean, and I think it changes sometimes, like throughout your different like stages in life, right? There was a time where my wife, as like the nurse, was kind of like the sole breadwinner, and she knew that, and so like success for her meant carrying us through to a point where then roles would be reversed. She'd be at home, and so I mean, success in terms of like what I do right now would be being able to provide for my family. But then success obviously goes way beyond that. I mean, one of the biggest dreams I've ever had in my whole life, legit, which I don't think many guys or men like would say, man, I right, we hear it a lot, like I grew up wanting to be a mom, but like I legitimately, I think from like the time I was like 5 or 6, my dream was I can't wait to be a dad. And so now that I have my son, like success in life means being able to provide a life, but also in a way where I'm not overworking, right? That's kind of like the whole show is like, what is success? And so many times it's do the grind and do the hustle, but at what point am I sacrificing something in my life, right? Like we as real estate people know we always talk about ROI and return on investment. Well, the one thing that is our most prized commodity in life is time. Yep. And so, like for me, like I love Jesus and I love my family, like, and I love my friends, relationships. And so, what is my return on investment of all this time? I'm not saying like don't work hard. I'm saying like there's a level of working hard, but then there's like a level of being undisciplined with like my calendar and my schedule, and sometimes like running a bit too hard to where either I'm going to get burnt out or I'm sacrificing the time I have. Like it's been a year and a half, but it feels like Addie was born yesterday. And like to see like the developmental stages, man, who like people gave me all kinds of warnings, or not warnings, but advice on, this is difficult. Nobody told me that the most difficult thing about being a dad would be time just moves so fast. And you can't get it back. Sometimes he's in one stage and he moves on to the next. And just like that, it was, well, I guess that stage is over now. And so for me, success is, if I'm going to is not so much the dollars, but it's my time, it's my energy, my love and passion. And it's pouring it into the right places that I know are going to last more than like 15 minutes. Like I pour my time here. Okay, I make a couple $100 here, and then I buy a toy and I like it for 15 minutes. I want to be there for my family, be there for my son, and be the best husband I can, be the best father I can, be the best like follower of Jesus that I can. And so for me, like ultimately that's more success. But right now my avenue to be able to have that time too is to still be successful in real estate. And so I do have to like work hard and be passionate about it. I think sometimes when you have multiple things is when it's real estate time, and this is like a lesson to myself as I'm saying it because I'm just so ADD and whatever, but like it's real estate time, give 100% to real estate time so that real estate time can be this not little, but this allotted time, as opposed to if I'm going to be distracted by everything, that 40, 50 hours is going to turn into 70, 80. Well, then by me not going 100% at my job now, because I chose not to work as hard as I can, I'm actually taking away from where my true passion is and what I deem as successful. So
tell me more about how that's changed since getting into real estate, because I imagine that definition and that wisdom that you just shared probably wasn't even in your mind when you started. How is that transition? How is that transformation? Tell me more about that.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't in my head. I mean, if you would have asked me like 3 years ago, I think obviously me being a dad now has changed a lot of things. And now being like a sole income, and part of that just comes with growing up, that like I am older.
Sure.
Luckily, I'm old enough to where I'm just beyond the...
Should ask our listeners who they think is older.
well, now they know. The crazy thing is, I doubt many people know that I'm like the oldest team member on the Seawart group in lacrosse. And if you ever met us and talked to us, no way would you say that.
Zero chance.
If they're listening, they might not know it. If they look at us, they might say, okay, Keegan might be the oldest. But yeah, it's
minus the nose ring.
Minus the nose ring. Still hip and cool. Yep. Luckily, I'm old enough to where I didn't have to do that whole Tinder thing. I love the movie The Notebook. Luckily, that was
your scenario.
Well, my wife did say no to me 4 times, but like you said, persistence. You see what you want, you set your sights on it, and you keep going. Either that, or I wore her down to where she felt enough pity and said yes to a date. But either way, now
mission
we're
accomplished.
Happily married. So, yeah, it's changed over time. I think before I just didn't I didn't care enough about, because my heart just really like, money is just not a big thing to me. Like I just don't really care, as weird as that is to like say. Yeah. But now being the sole provider for my family, that's what's changed all of it, right? And I think it's just like a lack of focus. Like when I was younger, I'm very flighty and what sounds fun today and get distracted. And so success to me, I wouldn't have said I was successful, but I'm not sure I would have even known necessarily how to answer that question.
Yeah. So if you're, what advice would you have to somebody, whether they're just say a brand new salesperson in general, because whether you're selling real estate or anything, that hustle, that grind can really be unlimited, right? So what would you share to somebody who's just starting out in a sales position, um, in regards to how you're spending your time and how hard you're working and where you're directing your time and energy?
I'd say calendar block, make your calls if you're a salesperson. I mean, everything is about how many people you get in front of, how many people you talk to. So making your calls, but then as best as you can, right? We don't, at least this is how I do it. I'm sure other people would give different advice. I don't think we can hold everything so firm of like, I can't talk to anybody until noon. Now, as like 90% try to stick to the morning routine. The morning routine has made a huge difference for me. But I think it's like being focused and being deliberate about what you're doing. But also like when you are new, especially in real estate, everybody talks about I joined real estate to have flexibility.
Yep.
I'm sure you did. Well, I show houses on the evenings and on the weekends. So I'm super flexible. They're like, oh, you have your mornings. No, that's how I have showings in the evenings and on the weekends.
Right.
So I think when you're brand new, the one thing that you don't have is you don't have that huge client base. Like I'm from this area. I know a lot of people. And guess what people didn't do? Oh, Keegan Walls is in real estate. I better call him to buy a house. Like it helps a little bit to have connections and be from here, but you can't just live on that.
Yep.
And so I think, it is grinding, but then knowing like your limitations, because the worst thing you can do is overwork for too long and you're going to get burned out. And then you're like, then what good are you? And so I think it's finding like your own balance, but you do kind of have to come in, at least in my opinion, with the mindset of I'm brand new. One of my best abilities right now is my availability because I'm not busy. So I do have to be available and I know that like if I do the grind and do it really like work really, really hard, if I do it right and do it focused though, and I grind right now, I shouldn't have to always do that like forever. Like, man, I'm going to have to do this for 80 years. Well, no, I think if you're focused in your approach, you still have to work hard, but I think you set yourself up for success.
Yeah, and I think you got to set the right expectations with yourself and other people that are that you have relationships with in your life, of like setting expectations of what the next 6 months are going to look like, or year or 2 years, and really kind of have a vision further than, hey, I'm just going to work really hard and sell a lot of houses, and because that's how burnout happens, and then you'll be in the business for 6 months or a year and be done. So
yeah. And find a good team.
For sure.
Like if you're going to be a salesperson, you're going to work for somebody. Like,
yeah.
For me, I know how I operate, which was not being a solo agent and doing everything on my own.
Yeah.
It's just not how I'm wired. I love team. I want to be a part of a team.
Yep.
And so I found you guys, and that in real estate was the best decision I've made. It made the whole difference of why I am where I am today, was joining a team. So I think know yourself and put yourself in the right situation too.
Yep.
So
you talked a lot about faith and how that plays a role in your life. How do you, how do you commingle faith and business? That's a touchy topic, and that's one thing we're not going to shy away from on this podcast, is talking about that. And how do you commingle those two?
Yeah, for me, everybody is where they're at. People are in different journeys. They have different beliefs. For me, it's not necessarily like commingling. I do think it's kind of like learning, like coming from like the ministry background, where it's like, it's full on ministry, and then kind of going to Misty's, where it was like all the kids knew how I felt and whatever, and it wasn't hidden, to now like, okay, well now I'm in real estate with different people. It is kind of learning that balance of there is like a balance, but to me, it's not necessarily like the balance isn't like, how do I mingle this? And like, it's not two separate things. Like that's who I am. Mm-hmm. I wake up and you want to talk about success. Like that's number one. Like Jesus is number one on my list. That is the thing that has always been most important to me. And so I think part of that though is just, I believe, like as a Christian, loving other people, like it doesn't have to like be like this deliberate whatever of
Bible
like
thumper.
I have to feel this.
Yeah.
I have to feel this thing of like I have to share this, that, and that.
Yeah.
No, but I do believe like the Holy Spirit resides in me, and I believe like any good in me, it comes from Him. Especially like if you knew me BC. So I think it's like sincere love for people, legit coming from a place of serving them and putting them in the best positions. Where I've always joked that I've talked more people out of houses than I don't think I've ever talked anybody into a house. I mean, I've helped like make it clear, like sometimes like this is a good deal, but I've talked a lot of people out of houses because it's not about the dollar and cents thing. So I think my commingling is just any effect is like, I'm just kind of like a light in the world and letting Jesus just live through me. And that's how I do life.
Dude, how awesome is that? That we can even be sitting here talking about that, and we can, in our professions and our careers and our day-to-day lives, of being able to be an entrepreneur and be bold about your faith and be bold about who you are. And I don't think you'd be able to have this conversation working at a corporate 9 to 5, right? You'd probably be having to sit down with the manager. Hey, you can't talk about that here. So what a blessing it is to do what we do, to be entrepreneurs, to be bold. And if that causes us to lose some clients, then so be it.
Right.
Yeah, so what a blessing that is. But I think we're getting close on time. This was, like I said, this is probably the worst that's going to be. It'll only go up from here, but we are super excited for what's to come. I think we have 7 or 8 guests lined up here over the next month or two before the wedding, and then I'll be MIA for a little bit after that.
Well, so
but-
I'll be there. Not on the honeymoon part.
Right?
The wedding, like that one day.
I hope you won't be on the honeymoon.
I hope.
So yeah, we're super excited about this. We'll see what happens. I mean, we're going to be releasing episodes once a week.
Yep.
And having different guests. If anybody has guests recommendations, please let us know. We're obviously located here in La Crosse, so ideally it would be somebody here locally now. But I think we're willing to travel for the right guest and open up other opportunities. So any closing thoughts there?
No, honestly, just super excited. I mean, this was super fun. I'm super excited for what's going to come in all the next weeks and months and years of doing this. I just think it's going to be like a super awesome time. Obviously, this episode's done. We don't want to share everything, but I'm sure we'll do another podcast, kind of do a behind the scenes, get to know Austin and Keegan.
Yeah. I think we can do more like if there's specific topics or stuff you guys want to know more about us. Like if we want to do a deep dive into rentals or a deep dive into sales or faith or whatever, I think we can definitely do some episodes and deep dives into those as well. So
for sure. Yeah, and I mean, our heart is we want people to find value in this.
Sure.
We want you guys to like share this.
Yep.
We want you guys to subscribe. And if you guys have certain things and questions, like we want to engage with the people that are like our audience and the people that are a part of this. So like, please let us know. We'll be putting out all the details on like how you can get in contact with us. And we want to be responsive and like helpful. Like the whole point isn't just to sit up here and we say things and then you guys are on your merry way. We do hope that it's like, if there are people trying to be entrepreneurs or trying to get into real estate, that we're like actually like helping and that we can answer your guys' questions and from sometimes a distance, like walk you through some of the first steps and some of the hard hurdles of giving guidance and learning from people that are going to give even better guidance than we can give.
Yep. Yeah, I think, like I said before, just other people having access to some of the people that will be on here to hear their stories in more of an intimate conversational setting. I know that's something that I could have benefited from, even though I had incredible mentors and people that I looked up to and had conversations with as a younger kid and entrepreneur, but just kind of the definition of success and what to really strive after and what to go after, of focusing the conversations around that, I think will be instrumental to a lot of young entrepreneurs and business owners. So
for sure. Well, good first
That's
episode. Super excited for next week. So
boom.
There you go. You guys know what to do.
There we go.
Like, subscribe, share.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in. We sincerely hope that you found value in today's episode and heard one thing that you can take back and implement into your life today. As always, we appreciate your support and hope you can find a way this week to pay it forward.